Hello guys, welcome back to another video. So as you guys might know, I am from the UK and have spent time living in Australia as well. I worked in both countries, multiple jobs in both countries. I worked in the UK from when I was like 16 up until I left at 21 and spent 2 years in Australia where I worked a range of different jobs. And in today's video, I'm going to be comparing some of the differences working a 9 to 5 job. Not all of them your typical 9 to 5, but generally this video is going to be comparing the differences with working a regular job in both Australia and the UK. For you guys who live in either country and might be interested, and also for you guys who are planning to move to Australia, you might be able to get a bit of an idea of what it's like to work there, some of the benefits and some of the differences that I found of working a regular job in Australia compared to the UK. So before we get into it, make sure you give the video a like and subscribe to the channel, and yeah, let's get into it. So these points aren't to one specific job that I've done. These are kind of an overall theme that I've noticed across multiple jobs in both countries. So the first point, and it's definitely a point which you guys have heard me mention before if you've watched my Australia versus UK content, and that is that the wage is a lot higher in Australia. So typically for your average job, you're going to be getting paid more money than you would be in the UK. In Australia, I worked in retail, I did construction as well, and both jobs I was getting paid considerably more what I was in the UK for similar sort of jobs. From what I can remember, I think my last job in the UK, I was probably getting paid about £9 an hour, I would say. That was when I was 21 when I left. And yeah, I think I was getting paid about £9 an hour, which if you put it into Australian dollars, that's only about $18 or $19 per hour. Under $20 an hour for sure. Compared to in Australia, where I was working a retail job and getting paid $30 an hour, which is about around £15. So the difference with a retail job is crazy. Like, it's so much better, the wage in Australia. I noticed construction pays a lot more as well. And to be honest, I don't think there's many occupations which do pay more in the UK than Australia. One of the biggest benefits of moving to Australia is you get paid a pretty good wage, and it's quite easy to save money from my experience. So that's the first point. For an average job, most likely you're going to be getting paid more in Australia. The next difference that I found between working in the UK and Australia is in Australia, pretty much always you get paid weekly. Now this is a massive benefit again of working in Australia, and I was so used to in the UK where I'd always been paid monthly at every job I'd ever worked. It was monthly payments. I think most jobs in the UK do pay monthly, which isn't really a problem if you're someone that's quite good with money and you know, you don't spend it all. But for you guys who live paycheck to paycheck and you pretty much spend everything that you earn, getting paid monthly is pretty shit, I'd imagine, because you've got to wait till the end of the month to get paid. I remember like Christmas time as well, you get paid early for Christmas, but then you wouldn't get paid till the end of January, so you'd be going like 6 weeks without getting paid. Compared to in Australia where it is every single week, which is so good. I actually found it, even though I've always been fairly decent at managing money, I found it actually easier to manage my money when I was getting paid weekly, because rent came out weekly. I was doing a weekly food shop. It was a lot easier to manage my money getting paid weekly, so I preferred it definitely. And it was also nice because there was a couple of jobs I had in Australia where I'd get paid on the Friday, and you'd actually finish your shift on the Friday at the end of the week and you'd pretty much be paid instantly for the week, which is so much better than the UK where you'd be getting paid a month later than all the shifts you did. Yeah, getting paid weekly is a massive bonus of Australia. And also when you start a job, you can earn money in a week or so. It's so good. You start a job in the UK, you're not going to be getting paid for a month or so. The next thing that I noticed, and maybe this was just the sort of jobs I was doing, but I thought I got more breaks in Australia, and they also seemed a bit stricter with breaks and taking your breaks. Don't get me wrong, there was some jobs in the UK where I had decent breaks as well. Hospitality, my first job in the UK, I noticed they are very, well, I think hospitality in general, they're not as on it with you having breaks. I remember working at a hotel and doing like 6-7 hours sometimes in a row without even having a break. And then I would get a break and I would just eat and then get straight back to work. Compared to other jobs in the UK, but particularly other jobs in Australia, they're very on it with your breaks. I actually found that you get quite a lot of breaks. I'd get like a morning break where I could have a coffee. I'd get like a half-an-hour lunch break, and then I'd get an afternoon break as well. And they would be, it's like, well, obviously it's a law to have your breaks, but I don't know, I feel like I was getting a lot more breaks in Australia. on my shift, and it was a lot stricter, the laws to do with having breaks, compared to in the UK, where I felt like even though I did have breaks, it didn't feel as important having breaks. Number 4 is another thing which I don't know if this is true, but something I felt like I noticed, and it feels a lot more official getting a job in Australia. There's a lot more paperwork, there's a lot more things to fill out. I don't know, this is something which I think I noticed compared to in the UK, where I feel like multiple jobs that I started, they were just slacking with everything. Like, I'd start a job and I wouldn't really sign that much paperwork, and then like 2 weeks in, they'll be like, oh, have you not signed up to that yet and stuff. And there was a few jobs where I feel like I hadn't even given my bank details until like a few weeks in. I don't know, I felt like in the UK it wasn't really done officially, and they were kind of not really well organized at all with getting you set up for that job and giving you the correct paperwork and stuff, compared to in Australia, where every job I start, they send you like 5 full documents that you have to fill out. Your superannuation, which is like your pension, obviously your bank details, you have to fill in your address and your fucking things so many times. There's so many forms to fill out in Australia. For some reason it felt a lot more official and a lot more organized starting a job there, compared to in the UK, where I felt like sometimes you just turn up at a job and just start before they've even given you anything to fill out. And number 5 is another thing that I personally noticed, and this is to do with the people at the jobs rather than the actual job, and that is that I found people in jobs in Australia a lot more positive, a lot nicer as well. And even though not everyone in Australia would necessarily enjoy their job, I found that people were just very nice either way. I've said this before, and I think Australian people generally live a very good life, and even though they might not like their job, because their outside life is so good, it doesn't really affect their overall quality of life, compared to in the UK, where I feel like people let work dictate their whole life. And I just met so many negative people at work in the UK. Everyone was so negative, moaning, hated their job, and because they hated their job, pretty much hated their life, compared to in Australia, where, I don't know, I feel like everyone I didn't meet many people at all, obviously 1 or 2. I didn't meet that many people that I didn't like, to be honest, at jobs, which, to be honest, from my experience, is quite rare, because I feel like in the UK I'd work with quite a lot of people that I didn't really get along with, a lot of negative people, a lot of bad managers. In Australia, obviously that happens, but from my experience, it wasn't anywhere near as bad. And I felt like people at work were just a lot more positive, and they'd been getting up to nice things outside of work and had more to speak about, compared to in the UK, where everyone is just dreading work and just hating their life because of it. I don't know, I felt like the overall vibes at work were a lot more positive in Australia compared to the UK. Now, these were just some of the differences that I've noticed between working a 9 to 5, a typical 9 to 5 job in Australia, compared to the UK. To be honest, after making this list, I've realised that all of these points are pretty much in favour of Australia, and it's clear to me after making this list and this video that working a 9 to 5 job in Australia is a lot better than what it is in the UK. Obviously the wages are the top thing, that's the best thing about working in Australia, but getting paid weekly is a massive positive as well. More breaks is definitely a positive. I guess it being more official and more organised with getting set up is definitely a benefit, and more of a positive working culture as well is definitely a positive. So that's just from my experience. I found, even though I didn't really work jobs that I liked in Australia, and I don't believe that working a typical 9 to 5 is the route that I want to go down, there were definitely positives about doing it in Australia, and if I had to work a 9 to 5 job, I would definitely rather do it in Australia than the UK, that's for sure. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments on this. If you're looking at moving to Australia, it is a great country to work in, lots of opportunity, and yeah, obviously the great wage as well. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon with another video.